Well, beginning in September, Apple plans to require their employees to return to the office at least 3 days a week. But employees are now pushing back. They want to continue working from home. CNet's Ian Sherr joining me now to break down this bit of controversy going on. They've started a petition to try and do this to make sure that they could maybe stay working from home 5 days a week. I feel like this isn't the only company facing this type of issue where workers want to be able to stay working from home. What are the chances that Apple employees get their way in this?
It's going to be really interesting to watch. I think that one of the things Apple is up against is that the general kind of consensus around the country is that work from home needs to be something that's much more allowed. And we're seeing a lot of companies start to really embrace it, including, by the way, Twitter, but also all sorts of other companies. And I think the conversation is turning into that some companies, especially Silicon Valley ones, unfortunately, really want to have their employees at their desks. And the employees say, well, wait a minute, this is not the way the world worked for the last year. The COVID-19 pandemic is not over, by the way. And also, we have proven that we've been able to be successful when we're away from the office. Apple had their best revenue and profit in history at the end of last year, after a year of working remotely.
Well, and I know that that's what a lot of these employees are saying, not just from Apple, clearly, but all these other companies as well. We know Google welcomed back some employees. There are several other. We've started to see, a lot of traffic around here on our bridges, people coming back into work finally. But I feel like, offering a hybrid model is not necessarily that bad of an option for these employees, though, right?
I think that part of the conversation is turning into what works best for each person. It used to be that you were expected to be at your desk, and we've all been through the San Francisco commute, right? And some of those people on those buses, it's an hour and a half each way. And that is not something that was ever good. But now that they've gotten a taste of what it's like to have a 20-second commute, they really want to stick with it. And I can't blame them. I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how this ends up shaking out, because Apple, Google, Facebook, they all spent billions of dollars on new office space. They've been buying up office space wherever they can find it. And now they're in a situation where a lot of their employees don't want to go back to it. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Well, and I guess we'll have to wait and see just how many people end up signing these petitions and how Apple responds. We'll check in with you again about that later on. Another headline today, the president is blaming China for hacking Microsoft. Do you think, we know that there's no sanctions that have been brought against China for doing this. Do you think that might be coming?
It'll be interesting to watch for sure. The reality is that we have been fighting a cyber war, as it were, for a long time now. I mean, the first time that we started getting real sense of Chinese hacking was over a decade ago when Google pulled out of China, saying that they'd been hacked by that country. And ever since then, we've seen all sorts of countries really stepping up their, what we call at CNet, state-sponsored hacking. Right, that's Iran, North Korea. You've got China, obviously, and it's a huge problem that they're up against. It's been very interesting to watch as the United States has been dealing with all sorts of these types of attacks. It's not just the Microsoft one, but instead of what it was before, where a lot of this stuff was under the surface, a lot of us just didn't know it was happening day to day. This has been increasingly coming to the forefront. We see emails getting spilled on the internet. We see companies going down. We see all sorts of stuff happening, and that is forcing the government to acknowledge it and potentially do something. We don't know.
Well, and I feel like if the government doesn't do anything, that kind of opens the door for more of these hackers to just do whatever it is that they want to do.
I mean, this sounds like the Cold War again, right? Proportional response and the whole thing. I don't know whether or not, by the way, we're hacking other people. I think there are a lot of people who would bet that we are. So, this kind of thing may already be going on. I think the question is, how do we set rules around what you're allowed to attack and what you're not? Just like we have Geneva Conventions for actual war. This is something that's going to eventually start hitting power grids and water supplies and stuff where we can't live without that stuff. And I'm hoping that these countries can agree on something before that happens.
Final headline that we wanted to chat with you about today. Jeff Bezos, of course, headed to space tomorrow. Obviously, Richard Branson already went up, came back down. What are you expecting to see tomorrow when it comes to Bezos' trip?
A lot of debate about space. One of my most interesting things I've been watching is that in fact, Jeff Bezos started this by saying that Richard Branson had not gone to space because he hadn't gotten high enough up. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson of the Hayden Planetarium came out just the last couple of days and said, well, actually, Jeff Bezos isn't even going to go high enough up. So they're all kind of being mean to each other in this weird, nerdy, rich way, and I don't get it. But, look, it's interesting to watch a billionaire go into space. Good for him. I'm jealous. I want to go to space. Yeah. But in the meantime, here we are.
We're all just sitting watching from our computer screens, basically wondering why they're not necessarily using the money for other things that could be helping us here.
Don't even get me started there.
I know.
Yeah.
I know that is mainly the biggest conversation that a lot of people are having. We won't get into all that because we'd be sitting here all day long. Anything else you want to tell us about any of these headlines we talked about, specifically that Apple employee petition? When do you think we'll hear anything more about it?
Apple has been very quiet about this. They have responded internally, and they've put out video statements from their head of HR. They've had the CEO put out emails from Tim Cook, but I'm not sure the company will ever speak publicly about it because it's very rare for them to air their dirty laundry like this.
Definitely. All right, Ian Sherr, we'll check in with you a little bit later this week. Thanks.
Definitely. Take care.